Frankenstein and Dracula, Norman Bates and Hannibal Lecter, even the shark from Jaws and the velociraptors from Jurassic Park.
Clever girl.
All of these classic movie monsters originated in novel form, but Michael Myers is different. He was a wholly original cinematic creation that could not even exist in literature. Believe me, I've read the novelizations.
What the
The Halloween franchise consists of 13 movies, 3 of which are called Halloween, and 2 more called Halloween 2, with 5 separate timelines among them.
These timelines are so confusing.
Some of these movies are good and some are bad, but this video is going to focus on the one undeniable classic, the original. Debra Hill and John Carpenter wrote Halloween when they were hired by Irwin Yablans to create an exploitation film about a serial killer stalking babysitters.
And it occurred to me that if we did a movie about babysitters, it would work because everybody had either been a babysitter or been a baby.
Hill's contributions as co-writer and producer are often overlooked due to Carpenter's virtuoso directing, but drawing on her own experiences as a babysitter was vital to creating the Anywhere USA vibe for what was originally titled The Babysitter Murders.
I was a babysitter, and I knew what it was like to be, all those characters, and so I really contributed the girl dialogue.
Teen Girl Squad! Cheerleader! So-and-so! What's your face? The ugly one!
In a fun bit of film history trivia, Hill also helped launch the career of another massively successful director, Chris Columbus, by producing a very different movie about babysitters.
You know what a coincidence is?
Hill's attention to the young female characters set Halloween apart from most other slashers in the ensuing 80s horror boom. If you want to hear more about how Halloween kicked off the trend of slasher films, watch my previous video, Psychos, Superheroes, and Cinematic Cycles. As Mark Clark points out, what the makers of these second-rate knockoffs failed to realize, however, was that Halloween triumphed not because of Michael Myers, but because of a combination of Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. Michael proved easy to copy, but Laurie was impossible to duplicate. It's not a coincidence that the very best Halloween films feature Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode. But also the worst ones, so...
That would be a coincidence.
John really is, I would say, the developer of the whole evil concept.
Carpenter principally wrote the male leads, Dr. Loomis, and the focus of today's video, Michael Myers. Loomis is the kind of crazy doctor you'd find in a Lovecraft story, ranting about unspeakable horrors.
He's gone. He's gone from here. The evil is gone.
But I think it's a little melodramatic, and certainly in my role. But of course it's not intended to be real in that awful word realistic sense.
Michael is the opposite. He doesn't speak or emote. He's totally devoid of passion, even motivation.
I basically asked the actor question, what is my motivation? And he said, your motivation is to walk from this point to the end point and roll.
Movies like Black Christmas or Slumber Party Massacre don't necessarily spell out the motive for their killers, but there's still an implication of something underlying their behavior. You get the sense that the movie simply cheats by withholding that information. With Michael Myers, it's different. There's no information to withhold. There is no explanation. Michael starts the film outside his house. We don't know why he's out there. He sees Judith with her boyfriend kissing, but we don't know how he feels about it. He goes inside, we don't know why, puts on his mask, we don't know why, and stabs his sister. We don't know why. The murder of Judith is neither motivated, nor does it motivate subsequent events. It occurs spontaneously, springing from the cinematic void of the film's opening credits.
You don't give much of an explanation.
There's no reason why Michael is the way he is. Michael simply is.
I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I watched him for 15 years, sitting in a room, staring at a wall, not seeing the wall, looking past the wall, looking at this night.
Watching or not watching is central to Halloween, because seeing is power in a horror movie, even, or especially, what the audience sees. It's a function of Michael Myers as a purely cinematic villain. The classic film The Innocents, Jack Clayton's 1961 adaptation of Turn of the Screw, inspired John Carpenter.
How long can you keep the audience waiting for that event to happen? And how long can you keep this mysterious character, Michael Myers, alive and stalking people without ever having to do anything?
In another interview, Carpenter describes the scene. Ghosts were standing across a pond, just looking, doing nothing but looking. There's something arresting about that. It stuck in my mind when we were making Halloween. For the middle portion of Halloween, Michael just looks. Take the scene where Annie gets a call from her boyfriend.
My parents are gone.
Michael stands outside watching her,
About a half hour ago.
Oh, utterly fantastic.
then disappears 100 frames later. He's not doing it to scare her. It doesn't really make sense outside of the context of a movie. The only purpose is to scare us. It's like he knows the camera is there. Some critics mistakenly interpret Halloween as a morality play.
The movie was heavily criticized for some aspects of this idea that the other girls in the movie, since they had boyfriends, were somehow morally deserving of dying from the hands of the shape.
You can never have sex.
As an avatar of Puritan sexual morality in this interpretation, Michael kills the characters who engage in premarital sex, but not the supposedly virginal Laurie.
I'll be right back. Never, ever say, I'll be right back.
The thing is, Laurie isn't a virgin due to lack of trying.
I'd rather go with Ben Tramer. Ben Tramer? See, you do think about things like that, huh, Laurie?
Plus, she does drugs.
You can never drink or do drugs.
And Jamie Lee, because she was a virgin, was the heroine that I let live, which is absolutely untrue. The whole point of it being that the girls who were involved with their boyfriends were too busy to notice what was going on.
The difference between Laurie and her friends is that she's the one who notices Michael, the one who sees him. Even when she's with her friends, the others are too distracted to see him. Sex is the biggest distraction among many because, they're teenagers. Michael's sister wasn't paying attention to where he was either.
Michael's around someplace.
And Michael himself seems more interested in the knife than the nudity.
John was acutely aware of the importance of composition. You deliberately put a character on one side of the frame, leaving a lot of empty frame, which can either tell the audience something is going to happen there or potentially could happen.
Laurie is most in danger when she's not looking for Michael. Dr. Loomis is actually looking for Michael, but never sees him until the end. It's at that point that the filmmaking becomes its most conventional, with basic shot-countershot coverage. Once Michael is seen by the heroes and the audience, he's defeated. Michael has the most power when he is unseen. Thanks in large part to Halloween, the killer POV shot has become a staple of the slasher genre, appropriated and replicated countless times. It's sometimes misconstrued as forcing the audience to identify with the killer. In fact, the opposite is true. I should clarify at this point that what we're talking about is more precisely termed an optical point of view, a technique unique to film as a combination of cinematography and editing, as opposed to the literary device called point of view, using a character's emotional or psychological perspective of events to frame the narrative.
What I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
In Point of View in the Cinema, Edward Brannigan identifies 6 elements of a classic POV, divided across 2 shots. It's a little pedantic, so we'll simplify it. If you want more details, read the post associated with this video on Too Much Film School, linked below. Shot A shows the character looking. Shot B shows what the character is looking at, from approximately that character's, you guessed it, point of view.
A certain point of view?
At that point, we almost always return to shot A to see the character's reaction and sympathize with it. But as Adam Hart points out in his paper Killer POV, First-Person Camera and Sympathetic Identification in Modern Horror, a killer POV is different. It works against the kind of sympathetic identification implied by Brannigan. Although the killer POV is a convention now, It was surprising and off-putting in 1978 to start with no information about the character through whose eyes we are looking. We have no motivation, so we have nothing to identify with. All we get is the sense of danger, because we know the unseen character has a knife, closing in on the helpless woman, but she doesn't. It makes us feel trapped in this body that we dislike. Michael! To be clear, Halloween wasn't the first movie to start with a long POV shot. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde beat them to it by about 47 years. But director Ruben Mamoulian made sure we could see Dr. Jekyll fairly early in the shot, precisely so we could identify with him. Nothing like that happens in the opening scene of Halloween, which is why the first cut comes as an amazing shock.
Michael?
Carpenter finds other ways to throw the audience off balance too, by concealing key elements of a scene through editing. Take the famous sequence of shots where Laurie sees Michael in her neighbor's backyard. In shot A, Laurie looks out the window. In shot B, we see Michael standing among the fluttering sheets. Laurie looks slightly puzzled. Back to shot B, and Michael is gone. In shot A once again, Laurie jumps back, but it's not entirely clear what happened. Did Michael just walk away? Why not show that? Laurie slamming the window would be a bit of an overreaction. Did he disappear like a ghost? Laurie's response would be an underreaction then. Carpenter gets to have it both ways, according to David Wardwell. Without obviously violating realism or directly showing that Michael has supernatural powers, he gives Michael the ability to come and go in a ghostly fashion. None of it really makes sense, except as pure cinema, as emotion generated by shot composition and juxtaposition.
I don't think motion pictures is at all intellectual. I think it's all feelings. People laughing, crying, screaming, etc.
One more cinematic trick Halloween treats us with is acousmêtre, Michel Chion's term for characters whose power is derived from the fact that they do not appear on screen.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
After hearing that played back, I just want everyone to know that I don't know how to speak or pronounce French, and I'm not intentionally making fun of anyone's accent.
Sacre bleu! We will show those stupid Americans who look like the frog, eh?
I read you.
Think of HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Or The Wizard of Oz from The Wizard of Oz.
I am Oz.
When we hear characters like this, they seem in total control.
If you were really great and powerful, you'd keep your promises.
Once we see them, they lose all power.
Oh, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Once again, Michael is heard but not seen. Carpenter sets up the sound of his breathing as the audio cue for Michael's presence. Every time we hear it, we're held in suspense, wondering where Michael will strike from next. This tension building reaches its apex at the end of the film.
The final montage of the movie was actually made in the editing room. I don't think that it was certainly not in the script.
A montage of empty locations where we had seen Michael previously, all while his breathing continues unabated on the soundtrack.
The ending means he's not only gone, he's everywhere.
Michael is no longer confined by the edges of the frame. He's a cinematic villain who's escaped into our world. If you want to support my work, please subscribe at toomuchfilmschool.com, where you will get the complete versions of my video essays, before the YouTube copyright gnomes forced me to make changes. If you liked this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more of these kinds of videos, hit the subscribe button. And if you want your friends to know what great taste you have in video essays, hit the share button. Thanks for watching.